What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with your host, Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, I am him. And I'm now transitioning to video. So this is fun. This is fun stuff.
Welcome to 2024.
So this is fun for me. You know what I mean? I'm moving at a different speed. I'm cut from a different cloth. So I move a little different. But I'm joined for the first time on video by my man Sports Talk Terry, Everett Terry Jr. What's going on, A?
Hey man, good morning, man. Just living a dream.
It is morning. It's still morning. No, it's afternoon for you.
Now it's afternoon here. It's morning there.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
giving
it's a
you. I'm
beautiful
giving you
morning.
the homage.
Beautiful morning. Been up, and it's not even noon yet. How much snow y'all got right now?
None. It all washed away.
Yeah, it was about mid 60s yesterday. Not a cloud in the sky. Not a
Yeah,
cloud in the sky. Can't breathe
that's all
the
right. We'll
air in
get
some
there.
parts of the city, but that's not important. Not a cloud in the sky, man. So you called me old. I am old, older, bit of a curmudgeon, as I texted you yesterday. And I'm not feeling all this NBA scoring, man. I'm not feeling this. Before we get into the highs and everything, let me give you a backdrop of why my issue is. As a fan, I feel like oftentimes players of lesser ilk will come out and just try to score points just to prove that they're good players. And it happened the other night on Karl Anthony Towns, a guy that I actually like, but they were up big against the Charlotte Hornets, a team that's teetering on G League affiliation. And uh, the players were watching Joel Embiid 70 point, what turned into a 70-point game, and trying to get Karl Anthony Towns points so he would score more than Embiid. So they weren't competing against the opponents. They were competing against a guy that they lost to a few weeks back. So the Hornets,
Handily.
so the Hornets wind up coming back and winning the game. The coach blasts the team, which I have another issue with, which I'll get into in a moment, because don't tell me about your problems at home. Go home and tell your problems at home. Don't tell me that I said I get to it in a minute. I'm getting into it. My issue with it with Finch was that he, instead of addressing it with the team and stopping it as it was going, having enough respect from your troops to stop it or to even know what's going on, you wait till after the game, lose the game, and now you want to talk about it after the fact. But yeah, so the Timberwolves will lose the game, but Towns did go on to score. I want to say 60 some points. I'll look it up. But Embiid dropped 70 in the win. About less than 24 hours ago, Luka went for 73, which is the fourth highest in NBA history and the highest since Kobe's 81 points,
Mm-hmm.
which was remarkable, but that was 18 years ago. So I'm looking at
Right.
the numbers as we go. We got Wilt's unofficial record of 100. We got Kobe's 81, Wilt's 78. Then you got Wilt 73, David Thompson 73, Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor. But then you got Donovan Mitchell 71, Damian Lillard 71. Those were last season. You got Devin Booker with 70, Joel Embiid with 70. Embiid's this year, Booker's was a few years back. And you got Jordan 69, Wilt's. So it's been a rush. I don't want to say a rush, but Donovan Mitchell scoring 70 plus points. Luka's a better player, but I don't. Luka scoring 70 points. And the guy, it feels like now it's becoming more guys crossing that 40 and 50 plateau. And I don't like it. I think it's bad for the game. What say you?
So this is one of those rare instances where we're actually going to agree because
It's
I'm a
not rare.
basketball purist and I love defense. And when I sit there and see the equivalent of all-star game defense because you want a guy go off, so you make the papers for the wrong reason. You're on the other side of the 73 getting bombed. I mean, the Hawks literally were playing Matador defense, just let Luka walk into the paint. He's already slower than me and you with crutches. Yet he's walking into the paint, getting layups, and nobody's stepping over to contest. I'm like, what kind of basketball am I watching? This isn't basketball. This is the equivalent of flag football Pro Bowl that we were
Yeah.
watching. Nobody
Yeah,
was
I
really
agree.
trying to stop him. And that's where it's bad for the game. Great because, yeah, it's going to be all over ESPN. It's going to get the kids thinking, oh my God, I can go out and score 70. And it's good in that respect. But basketball purists, people who truly study the game, understand that everybody scoring 70 then diminishes guys who really went out and scored
Yeah.
70 against people in double and triple teams who went and earned it the hard way. Granted, it was great to see Luka do it. That's wonderful. He has the skill set to do it. We know it. Devin Booker doing it as a shooter, okay, fine. Embiid as a big man, fine. The worst one, the most egregious one, I agree, is Karl Anthony Towns. Number one, because they were up big and they lost the game, and it was obvious they were just giving him shots. And that's where it's like, this is where it diminishes. And you know what it reminds me of? If you remember, think back years ago, and I'm going in a way back machine. Ricky Davis played for the Cleveland Cavaliers and wanted to
Yeah,
get a triple
I remember
double
that.
and missed a rebound on his own hoop to try to get a rebound
Yeah,
to
blew it
himself.
up.
And I'm just
Yeah,
like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? For one triple double, my man, you still gonna be a nothing when you come out of the league. Like, nobody's gonna remember your career.
I like Ricky
And
Davis, but yeah,
I liked them, but I didn't like that. And so the point I'm making is when guys start to do stuff like that, it diminishes the effort that goes into the guys that really put it in to get it there. I'm not saying what Luka didn't do wasn't impressive, and even what Donovan Mitchell and Booker did because they were efficient at it. What Cat did totally diminished what everybody else did because it was obvious in a game they were bombing one of the worst teams in basketball. They were just trying to give him shots. It wasn't in the flow of the game. I mean, Ant Edwards had single digit points in that
hmm
game, and he's the best player on that team, and it's not close.
yeah,
Okay, because he was giving up his shots so his teammate could go off, so he could maybe try to pass and beat, which he didn't do anyway. Like
yeah.
it
He
wasn't
wound
even
up he
close to
wound up
passing
with
and beat.
60.
Like what are we talking about? Like Embiid's a better player. Take the L. Realize the man's a better ball player than you, and get better. Get in the gym, play some defense. Maybe that, and that'll help you. So that's how I feel on it.
The mindset of the player today is a little different, and not in good, bad, good, different, bad, different, but it's just different. The way they compete is different. They compete in a more friendly manner. Not saying that
Mm-hmm.
they're not competing, but the aggressive competition, the aggressive, I think they call it toxic masculinity, aggressive way of competing is very infrequent, and it frustrates me. But it's also another side of it. I don't like to see the guy walk out of the game when he has a chance to go for something monumental. When Kobe
Right.
walked out of the game against Toronto when he had 81, the game was over with. They'd won the game, it was done. So he didn't need to continue to play. But I don't like guys, oh, you're 2 points away from like 60. Oh, but the game is over. I don't need to get 60. No, I want you to go out and get that 60 through the course of the game. The issue I have with guys like Cat is you need to, at this juncture of your career, you need to have bigger fish to fry. You need to move on
Agree.
from the baby shrimp and move to the jumbo shrimp. Like you need to say, okay, look, I want to get the win. Because they were 6 and I'm really about to put my basketball hat on. But they were 6-10 last year against the worst teams in the NBA, your bottom 5 teams. Now they wound up playing in the play-in last year. Had they
Mm-hmm.
gone, let's just say 12-4 against
Or even
those.
10-6.
But if they go 12-4, they're one of the top 4 teams in the Western Conference. Do you
Correct.
understand? So it's those little things. It's like the old Mob Deep line. You keep letting those small things slide to be your failure because they build up over time. So when you see a guy come out and with Luka, I'm gonna take some shots at Luka, and I'm always hesitant to take shots at Luka, mainly because Luka was a guy I didn't think would be that good,
Mm-hmm.
and he turned out to be good. And full disclosure, I usually watch when Luka's on. They've gotten pushed back a little bit
Top
for.
five player in basketball. You got to watch him.
Yeah, well, he's been pushed back a little bit for Wembyamba now and De'Aaron Fox, and yeah, I'm
He's still top
astonished.
five player in basketball.
Well, no. I'm not talking about rankings. I'm talking about guys that I tune
Oh,
into for the league pass. Like when I sit down and go through the schedule, okay, who am I going to watch? Like I watch Dame Lillard every time I can, you know. So yeah, De'Aaron Fox, Wembyamba, and Harden, and what they're doing in Los Angeles, what Ty Lue is doing with the Clippers. Those are
I
games
tell
I'm
people he's
watching.
a great coach, man. People don't give him enough credit.
Yeah,
He is
he's a
a
great
great
coach, and no, people
coach.
do give him a lot of credit. The problem with Ty Lue is he just always has talent, so they don't want to give him as much credit as he yields. But going back to the Luka thing, I don't like Luka scoring 73 right now because when he plays in the playoffs, he's gonna need other guys are gonna need to score.
Like Kyrie.
Well, not even Kyrie, guys like Tim Hardaway Jr.
He's been doing that. He's having a great
But
year
they need
this
to
year.
find consistent ways of scoring. They need to find ways out of their traditional comfort zone to score, if that makes sense.
They need a trade.
And
You know who would fit great on that team? Miles Bridges.
you know who would be great on that team? Will Chamberlain. Problem is he's not coming. They're not going to get
Nah,
Miles
Miles
Bridges.
Bridges is gettable though.
They're
Will
not going to
Chamberlain
get
ain't.
Miles Bridges. No, the Brooklyn's not giving up Miles Bridges, but that's besides the point. The point is they need to form
Bro, you're
that
thinking Mikal.
continuity now.
I'm thinking Miles from Charlotte because it's a fire cell over there. Not
Oh,
Mikal from
okay.
Brooklyn.
Not Miles Bridges. What is Miles' last name? Well, they're not
Mikal. You're thinking Mikal from
Mikal
Brooklyn. I'm
Bridges.
talking
Mikal Bridges.
Miles.
Miles Bridges. Yeah,
Yeah.
my bad. Pardon. We can talk about that another time. That's we can talk about that another time because that's possible. Mark
Very.
Cuban, that's possible. But Yeah,
It
that's my
makes
issue with
sense.
Luka. He needs him and Cat. They need that bigger fish to fry. Embiid,
Agree.
I got a separate podcast I'm doing all about that, about his points and how he lights up these sub 500 and mid-level teams. But against the top 5 teams in the NBA historically, points, rebounds, assists, minutes, games played all go down significantly. And it's not even close.
Yeah. They
It's
got smoked
not
by the
even close.
Pacers the other day.
Huh?
They got smoked by the Pacers the other day.
But the thing is, it's consistent with him. But that's a pocket I'm getting. So that's my issue with Luka, because Luka can get those guys to play at a better level, and Cat should be acclimating himself to a different role for the long season. Now I want to transition. Speaking of roles, NBA trades. Pascal Siakam goes to Indiana. At first I didn't like that trade, but as I learned about why they did it, it makes a lot of sense. And I still don't like it. I don't think it's going to yield the results short term, but I think long term they will be a better team for it. I love the Rozier trade, and I take umbrage with something Shaquille O'Neal said, which I never do. I should say never, but I always pause to do. But I want to get your opinions first before we get to Siakam. I want to get your opinions on Rozier. What's that do not just for the Heat in the playoffs, but a lot of people don't know this. The Orlando Magic and Miami Heat are neck and neck for that division. And there's a good chance that the Magic could make a move that could because all the Magic need is shooting. That's it.
Agree.
They got everything else.
Agree.
All they need is shooting. They don't need play. All
they need an outside shooter.
Shooting. And they got the trade horses to get a significant shooter. So what were your opinions on the Rozier trade coming on the heels? Hold on before you start. Less than 24 hours after Embiid dropped 70.
Well, I think that the Heat realize that they're a team that's always going to be able to compete because they're a well-coached organization and they have good players to play around the guys that they have, but they needed more. And they always knew that they needed a true point guard who was a walking bucket. And they kept trying to believe in Tyler Herro, but Tyler Herro's more of a 2 who can't really defend his position. Okay, fine. You go out, you get a guy like Scary Terry, who's been a bucket for the last 4 or 5 years, easy, who is just wasting his career away, putting up 20-plus points per game in Charlotte. You bring him into an organization that's going to enhance his career on both ends of the floor and allows him to play around other great players. Talk about the perfect compliment. You get rid of Kyle Lowry's awful contract, salary dump him off to the abyss to finish out his career. He'll get bought out and probably end up with the Sixers.
No, he's not going to get bought out.
Now you get a guy, huh?
I said, he's not going to get bought out. Let me tell you something. Chris Paul set the standard. Yo, I want all my money. John Wall said, I want all my money. They were like, well, what about your career? What about
they
it?
ain't 37, though.
Huh?
They ain't 37. He is. He wants a title.
Okay. I get 10 to get you 20. 10 to get you 20, Lowry ain't going to be bought out. But continue.
But I like Scary Terry because now they've got 3 guys in their starting lineup, 4 that are capable of going off for 20 per. Bam, Hero, Butler, Rozier. That now means that you can't double down anywhere because you're going to have to, and don't forget, they still got the Martin brother out there running around. They got that young kid, Javier Vasquez.
Jaime Jacquez, yeah, Jaime, yeah.
Very, very good player. And so they've got enough talent around them. Spoelstra's going to have fun finding ways to mix and match that lineup. I think that they're going to be in a position where they're really going to be able to get up and down the floor. And like I said, Rozier's not afraid of the moment. He's got an automatic trigger. He's going to shoot when he's getting the looks, and he's going to get looks because unlike Charlotte, where, yeah, you had LaMelo out there running around when he played, giving you looks, now you got guys that are going to draw double teams. You're going to get wide open looks. So I think he was the perfect fit, perfect piece for them, answer all their questions. And now they essentially are going to, I think they're going to beat the Magic and eclipse themselves back into that top 4 discussion in terms of teams in the East.
Wow, a lot to unpack there. First, I love the trade on paper. I love the trade on paper because what it does is it gives Rozier a chance to play in those big moments. My son came to me the other day, and his basketball coach said to him, he said, "You guys are scared to get off the porch. I need you to be in the yard. I need you to be in the yard. You're scared to get off the porch." So he's just like, "Pop, what does that mean? Like that, what does that mean?" I said, "Well, son, in life you got dogs. You got some dogs that sit in the house and bark. Then you got some dogs that are willing to come to the porch and bark. But you want those dogs that run into the yard and don't bark, that bite instantly." And he was like, "Oh." Terry Rozier is a guy that runs into the yard instantly. He's always been that type of guy. He got to Charlotte and the games didn't mean as much. So his discipline waned. You know, discipline is one of those things that you have to constantly do to retain it. and he just didn't have it. And that's why I take umbrage with Shaquille O'Neal, because he said he took a lot of bad shots in Charlotte. Well, Charlotte's a bad team playing bad basketball with bad players. So it's only right you're going to take bad shots. He won't take those shots in Miami a lot. Will he take shots that maybe you say it wasn't the best shot? Yes, but Miami needs that because Miami hasn't had a guy that can consistently get his own shot, like a guy whose game is getting his own shot. Jimmy Butler is a guy who can score. He's efficient, but you're depending on Jimmy Butler through the course of the playoffs to get his own shot. It's not going to happen. He'll have good series where he has matchup issues. He was bigger than Drew Holiday, stronger than Drew Holiday, so he was able to take advantage of that. In New York, he was the most athletic player on the floor. He was able to take advantage of that. But when it got to the Eastern Conference Finals, got in a little bit of trouble. Then when he got to the NBA Finals, he was non-existent. So this allows him to kind of move back to that second banana where he can focus on defense sometimes and Rozier can take over. Here's where I don't like it on the floor. You mentioned Kyle Lowry's contract. The isolated moments of testicular fortitude, the isolated moments of true grit, they're going to miss from Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry is not going to give you 20 minutes of great basketball. Much like Pat Beverly. I hate Pat. I couldn't stand Pat Beverly. What he's done for those Sixers and giving them moments of toughness that they need to get them through lows where they would get pushed around, that's what Kyle Lowry would do to them on defense. He would take, even if he didn't get the charge, he had guys thinking this butthead is going to run under me if I try to jump. So I'm going to take this bad three-pointer. Or I'm going to move the ball because this jerk is pulling on my shorts. Stuff like that, they're going to miss. I don't think they're going to overtake Orlando if Orlando makes a trade for Bogdanovic, or if they grab a Jordan Clarkson, which has been kind of kicked around a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't think they'll overtake them because Orlando's ready to bust. Pause. But Orlando's like ready to go there. They're ready to take it there. So I don't think they'll do that. But I do believe come playoff time, they'll knock off one of those top 4 seeds. And I'm pushing the Knicks into that group, whether it be New York, Milwaukee, Philly, or Boston. I do think they'll not be able to knock off one of those top 4 seeds, given the opportunity that guys are healthy, which is another issue. Now, here's a trade where we're going to disagree with. Pascal Siakam goes to Indiana. Now, let me tell you why I don't. Well, I'll let you because I just talked for a minute. I don't like this trade, but I understand why Indiana did it. And for the reasons that they did it and watching their games, it makes total sense. 100% great basketball IQ, but I still don't like the trade. What say you?
I love the trade because, number one, they're one of the most highest scoring offenses in basketball. They run up and down the floor, and it gives them another facilitator, a guy who plays that Sabonis role, but is a little bit more balanced offensively, where Sabonis plays more around the rim. Siakam can hit the 15 mid-range. He can knock down an occasional three, but he can also set guys
You mean
up,
Turner?
and he's gritty, like you said. No. I'm in Sabonis because Sabonis was there. Remember, they traded him
Okay, gotcha.
to get Halliburton.
Gotcha.
So now he comes in and he plays that role, and he can help facilitate. And now that allows the aforementioned Miles Turner to just play defense and catch lobs. He doesn't have to sit there and try to be the guy in the paint when he double down on Holly and force him to make a move. Buddy Hield has disappeared from planet Earth. I don't know where he's at or what he's doing. Listen, I hope that he figures out a way to settle in and just be a knockdown, lights out shooter like he's been most of his career. But now this gives them a legitimate monster, a good 3-headed monster that can compete with some of the bigger teams in the East. Because Holly is the superstar star. You've got Siakam, and now you've got Miles Turner. While Miles Turner isn't a big name for a third, he is a guy who can protect the rim. He's having a career year in terms of his efficiency and his ability to score, rebound, blocks. He's getting there. He's getting after it. And the most important thing is he's staying healthy. So you factor that in with a guy like Siakam, who they're going to re-sign. You got your superstar in Halliburton, who should be back this weekend, if not early next week. And you have a team that can go on a run, that can maybe get to that 4 seed, maybe even that 3 seed. We already know they own Milwaukee.
Whoa. See, you always go too far with it. You always go too far with it.
Hear me for a second. They own Milwaukee. I don't want
to hear you, but go ahead.
They own Milwaukee, and they match up great. They own Milwaukee, and they match up great against the Sixers. I'm telling you, there is a chance, a small chance, that Indiana could be a top 3 seed, especially when they get Halliburton back and they get to running. They're one of the highest scoring offenses in basketball, and they can now add a level of defense that they didn't have before. That's my take. I love that trade for them. It's perfect. And Toronto wins. Yeah, it sucks that they gave up Siakam, but they're blowing it
Ain't
up and
nobody care
starting
about
over anyway.
that. Ain't nobody care about that. Toronto
Yeah,
is
nobody
about
cares.
to be rebuilding for like 15 years because they think Scotty Barnes is going to be a franchise player. Oh, ain't get me
He's a good
started on
player.
it. Huh?
He's
Yeah,
a
he's
good player.
cute. He's like a dog in a sweater. He's cute. He's a
Oh
cute little
man,
player.
Jesus.
Listen, man. First, let's go back to. I want to go way back to you. You saying that they're one of the highest scoring teams in the league. Well, I want to. You said there's a chance. Yeah, there's a chance for a lot of things in life. There's a chance I can get up with Sophia Vergara. You know what I mean? Because we're both breathing.
No, it ain't.
Because we're
No, it
both
ain't.
breathing. If you're breathing, you got a chance. Like, come on, man. That's about the chance they have of getting in the top three. They're not sniffing the top three.
I can hit Powerball. No.
You were right because they are one of the highest scoring teams in the league, but their style of play yields to that. They give up a lot of buckets offensive or defensively because they're always sprinting back. They've got a lot of horses. And by horses, I mean guys that get up and down the court. Where they struggled, and which is why I said I understand. I had to step back and which is why I don't rush to make judgments on stuff anymore. I don't want to be first. I want to be timely. You know what I mean? And I needed to do my research on why they made a trade because you got Benedict Mathurin, you signed Obi Toppin, you got Hield, who you mentioned. So that small forward shooting guard position, your wings are pretty much set. And they got guys whose names I'm not even thinking of off the top of my head. And Miles Turner, for as good as he is as a player, he plays more of that stretch four versus that back to the basket four. He can defend your fives, your fours, and in some cases your threes, but he's not a paint player. So
Right.
I didn't understand why you would add Siakam to take the ball out. But here's where Siakam helps them tremendously. And they knew that they would have this problem in the playoffs. They don't have a guy on their court who can get their own shot. And before you throw Halliburton out there, think about this. Before you throw Halliburton out there, Halliburton's struggling now with a hamstring injury. But before then, he was getting to the basket, right? Through a lot of times, either through pick and rolls or some sort of action with Buddy Hield on the other side of the court. So you had to worry about Hield shooting. He had a lot of monster shooting games, a lot of big scoring games when he was what? Hitting his 3-pointers. Now you say, well, that's obvious. If you're hitting your 3-pointers, you're going to score more points. But Embiid dropped 70, he only took 2 3-pointers. He only took like 1 or 2 3-pointers. The reason why that's important is that's showing you that they can get to any spot on the court and get their points. Come playoff time, that frenetic pace, unless you got Jason Kidd running at helm, which Halliburton is a good, I don't know if he's Jason Kidd-esque, but even with that, Jason Kidd had those 2 years where they made it to the NBA Finals. And after that, we didn't, prior to that, we didn't hear much about him making it, a lot of having playoff success. And after that, he didn't have a lot of playoff success until he got with Dirk and they won a title. So the reason why I bring that up is when the playoffs come, the game slows down. And what does that mean exactly? That means that you're not able to get as many transition buckets. You're not able to give up as many buckets defensively because you don't get as many easy buckets offensively. So those buckets that you're giving up defensively, those 10, 12, 13 points you give up in transition, that comes back to bite you because offensively teams are geared to stop you from running. And when you're the Pacers, they move at a pace, pun intended, that runs you out of the gym. You're going to Indiana in the middle of the week, which is already boring. Just saying Indiana in the middle of the week, I almost yawned. I literally almost yawned. I had to catch myself because I'm on camera, but literally almost yawned. So you're already half asleep. And then you got these guys going 1,000 miles per hour for no reason. These dudes are flying up and down the gym. They shooting around. And it's like, dude, I just want to get out. It's similar to going to Miami in January in the cold weather. And when you live in a cold weather state, it's like the last thing you're thinking about is basketball. So that's why I understand the trade. Siakam gives you that guy in a half court with the shot clock going down to 10 or 8 can get you a high quality, high percentage shot, not a deep three or not something that requires some sort of action. They can get you off script plays, which you need in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. I think they're going to try. He told everybody that was trying to trade for him, I'm not re-signing with anybody unless it's Toronto. So he wants to go somewhere. Prior to Masai Ujiri mentioning it, I actually knew that he went to pastoral school, that he was interested in going to pastoral school. He has other things in basketball. He's already been accomplished. I just don't think he's going to go to a situation that he doesn't like, or a situation that he's just okay with. I think he'll go to the spot where he's happiest. So he may take less money to do that. But what it will do is allow you to develop Toppin and Mathurin in a much slower pace and keep you competing, because much like what you said, they believe somehow, some way they can compete in the Eastern Conference, which is a very deep conference this year. Unlike the West, the East is loaded. So
I agree.
that's why I didn't like the trade, because of the young players that it took away from. I understand it, just don't agree with it. But in a division where you got, and I always start with the division. In the division where you got Milwaukee, that's pretty much it. It makes sense to go for it because Milwaukee's reeling. And, speaking of Milwaukee, we got 10 minutes left in the segment.
And they can beat Milwaukee.
They've handled Milwaukee, but they know, Rick Carlisle's smart enough to know, Lloyd Daniels is smart enough to know that come playoff time, they're not going to be able to run at that frenetic pace. It's just not going to happen.
Well, they just added your buddy Doc. So you already know they're going to lose in the second round.
Well,
let them get a 3-1 and watch what happens.
All right, so let's talk about Doc a little bit. I'm different on Doc than most people. Well, here's why. Doc won a title in Boston when Boston was dead in the water. He made Danny Ainge's career. Danny Ainge didn't do diddly poo before Doc, before he got KG, before he got Paul Pierce, before he got Ray Allen, and the diddly poo since that spot. They made this great trade, huh?
That's for both of them. What has Doc Rivers won?
Well, Doc Rivers was able to get a Clippers.
I will argue he's coached the most talented list of players of any coach outside of Phil Jackson.
He's only coached one MVP though, and that was
Stop. I don't care about MVP. I don't care about MVPs.
I know you don't care about MVPs, but I do, because here's the thing: Doc needs guys. All right, you mentioned Phil Jackson. I think we both agree that Phil Jackson one of the greatest coaches in sports history. Like I think we both agree with that. Okay. He also had two of the most self-starting, motivated players in the history of sports, and Michael Jordan and Kobe, the great Kobe Bean Bryant. He also had two of the more fun-loving guys in Dennis Rodman and Shaquille O'Neal. So he was able to coach both of those guys, those type of players. Doc has only had one self-motivated, no matter what, it's all about basketball player. And before you discount what he did in Los Angeles, remember this. Los Angeles got to the second round with Vinny Del Negro, I believe. And it was like kind of, I don't want to say a shot in the dark, but they weren't, and they had Sam Cassell. They weren't like world beaters, and like Elton Brand was their star player. They got to the second round. Prior to that, the Clippers had no success, so there was no culture there. Doc goes there and they're perennial title favorites. And people are mad with them because the Clippers, and hold on, think about this. The Clippers didn't win an NBA title under Doc. That's what we're talking about? That's what we're saying. The Clippers should have won an NBA title under Doc. I disagree with that. And the mess that was in Philly, that team, as much as I love my Sixers, and I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I feel like I'm talking about one of my children. As much as I love my Sixers, they weren't ready for it to win an NBA title. They had the Celtics. You want to put it on Doc, that's great. But they had Harden, they had Embiid, they had PJ Tucker. None of them dudes could close that Game 6 game out.
So we're going to speed past the fact that he also had Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris.
No, he didn't have Jimmy Butler. Doc never had Jimmy Butler.
Oh, that's right. Brett Brown did. Brown did. You're right.
If he had Jimmy Butler, it would have been different. It would have been different. No, because he needs that. Doc needs that guy. He needs that guy more than any other coach. But I don't think he's as bad now. And I'm gonna give you the mic in a second. Just let me say this because I want to get us to Milwaukee, because I know we're short for time, so I want to give you the time to get to Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, he'll have Giannis. He'll have Bobby Portis, and he'll have Lillard. Those guys will come out and get it done on their own. They just need somebody to point here occasionally, there occasionally. They don't need the Phil Jacksons of the world. So, I like Doc in Milwaukee. I believe as much as I want to say I want the Sixers to go to the NBA Finals, I still believe the Bucks, and I believe the Bucks were going to go there anyway. I don't think this changed the course of the action for him. I think it just makes it easier for him. Floor is yours.
So here's where I go. A couple things about Milwaukee, and I'll talk briefly about Doc. The Milwaukee Bucks had the second or third best record in basketball when they fired a coach at 30-13, which is insane. The only other time that this rings in my mind is when David Black got fired in Cleveland with LeBron. Only other time in my mind I can remember a coach had
which he should have, but go ahead.
And the reason he got fired is because LeBron was like, listen, I'm up here drawing up plays in the huddle. What value do you bring? I get it.
Exactly.
Now I heard reports coming out that Adrian Griffin had rifts with assistant coaches. He had rifts with players. They didn't believe in his scheme. All of that to say, I don't know, as much as I like Adrian Griffin, if he was the right guy for that roster, especially if they knew they were going to try to make a trade for a blockbuster player. And here's the reason why I say that. I know that the argument from Stephen A. Smith and a lot of other pundits is that black coaches deserve a chance. I don't think you give a rookie guy who's never coached that kind of talent before that kind of a roster and then come in and give him a leash so short that the first time things get hairy, you let him go. Because I'll tell you something. If that were Phil Jackson having those same conversations, they wouldn't have done anything. If it were Eric Spoelstra, they wouldn't have had those same conversations. Eric Spoelstra clearly had risks with LeBron the first year in Miami.
9 and 8.
He managed to work through it and win, okay? So the argument I'm saying is pedigree matters. He didn't have the pedigree, and that's why he's out. He'll land a job somewhere, and that's fine. I think they realized that they saw a window to win right now with the East being open and the West being super open. This is a chance for them to win. Lillard's not getting younger. You got to take advantage of his prime. You got a healthy Giannis. You got to pull the trigger on something that's going to move the needle. Now, whether or not Doc moves the needle is the bigger question because I have not believed in Doc literally since 2008, okay? And while you argue that the man sat there and had to have all this, as I said, there's nobody that has coached more talent, whether you want to go Grant Hill, T-Mac, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin in his prime, DeAndre Jordan in his prime, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, the Embiid. My God, how many more top tier players do you want to give him to show you that he can coach regular season great, but can't win when it matters? The man's blown more 3-1 leads than anybody in the history of basketball.
But he got the leads to blow. Pause.
Stop. I don't want to hear that.
I can't dispute that. You're right.
If he turned two of those series into finals victories or got there and won, okay, I'll give you that. But what that shows me is he's a choke artist. They used to crucify Peyton Manning because no matter how great he played the regular season, whenever he met Tom Brady in the playoffs, he choked. They lost until he finally beat Tom Brady. And once he beat and slayed the dragon Tom Brady that 1 year, they never talked about it anymore. The same issue with Doc. Doc has to show people he can get up 3-1 on a team that they're in a battle with to get to the finals or win the finals and win the game. That's what he's got to do. It's like the Sixers getting out the second round. Don't talk to me about Embiid until I see him in the finals. Don't talk to me until he's in the conference finals. I don't want to hear nothing about what the Sixers are doing. Same thing with Doc. Don't talk to me until I see they're up 3-1 and they close out a series. I don't care if they close it at 4-2. I don't care if they close it at 4-3. Close the series and get to the next round.
It's a fight I have.
That's my issue with Doc.
Quickly, Lil Birdie told me, and I feel confident going to air with this, that Adrian Griffin was not brought in to coach Damian Lillard. If you remember, he got the job before Dame Lillard.
Before he was hired. Yep.
There were questions in Milwaukee. They were getting ready for a rebuild. They thought that they thought there was a good chance they weren't going to be able to keep Giannis and that they were going to have to go into a rebuild. And that's why they hired Adrian Griffin. It wasn't so much that he had a short leash. It was that the team that he was coaching was not the team that they thought he was going to have when the season started. And for the optics, they didn't want to hire him and only fire him. So they wanted to give him an opportunity. Also, there were some issues with the way he was treating Giannis's brother. So there were some issues there. As I said, I feel confident and I can go out and not attribute it to where I heard it from, but the people that I got it from are the two people I got it from pretty reliable. They're in that whole circle and everything. So with that being said, man, look, you're right about the 3-0. You're right about being ahead in series. And losing last year to the Celtics should have cost a lot of people their job. Number one, Daryl Morey. But I'm not going to hold him because every one of those lead blown, every one of those stops you mentioned, Grant Hill was hurt then and wasn't the same player. They all have reasons to excuse why the outcome was what it was. There is no excuse here. Whether you're for Doc like me or against Doc or you oppose Doc like you, this is it for him. This is the final stop. Win or not, this is it for Doc. He'll do his 4 or 5 years here, and that's it. He won't get another shot. They're not hiring 70-year-old black men to coach teams. Ask Lenny Wilkens. He's still sitting out right now. Lenny Wilkens ain't even a
He ain't
contributor.
coached since the 90s.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They just don't stick around like that. So